What are some of those big numbers, the benefits and other things you use when you try to educate a member of Congress or a staffer about the positive impact that e-government's having?
What kinds of things
Yes.
you point out to? Well, you point out that we used to have, why do we want to go from 18 payroll centers down to 4, down to 2? Well, the cost of 18 is this, and the cost of 4 is that, and we can get as many paychecks out as fast, but spending this much money instead of that much money. When you start talking about harder to define things, like we can take customer satisfaction level from 50-something% to 70-something%, what's that worth? I don't know, but
no.
Everybody wants to sign up for having it be in 70, not 50. And the cost of taking it from 50 to 70% satisfaction is this amount of money, and don't we think that's a reasonable expense to do that? So it's all different kinds of analyses and presentations to members of Congress, because we've got a technological solution to just about any service challenge we can dream up. We need to figure out which service opportunities are the most important and invest in those and then deliver on them.
That's been the most fundamental change I've seen. I mean, in the previous administration, we started with a focus on performance, and then this administration has put, the foundation in place and begun to see the benefits from it. And the evidence is clear. All a citizen needs to do is go online and try to access a service or find something, and it's there every day. It's the measure is right in their face, just like it is in the commercial sector. It either works or it doesn't. I get what I need or I don't. And that's wonderful. And because we expect it, and the federal employee expects it in their private life, they know that that's what they want to provide in their public life, in their professional life as well. So there's a lot more clarity. A high degree of transparency. That's another word we hear more and more, both on the commercial side and on the government side. Much greater transparency for the citizen. They can see what's going on. They can see what's available. They can see how government works.
We want, in all cases, to better serve the taxpayer, and we want it to be good for the employees, we want it to be good for the agencies. And usually those three things mean invest in IT intelligently and do things faster and more efficiently and get information to customers that they couldn't get otherwise. So forth.
So in addition to Congress, one of the key audiences you need to bring along on that has been the media that speaks to the contractor community and so forth. So how did those messages strike you, Nick, and what are you hearing?
Well, the pitch is very clean and simple, but for 6 years it's been such a struggle, and that's the one thing that I guess we've tried to get our arms around is why has it been so hard to convince some of the stakeholders that this is the right way to go?
Stakeholders like members of Congress and agencies?
Congress, yes.
People are creatures of habit, and appropriators are getting used to looking at budget proposals a certain way, and they can look at the Commerce Department budget and say, this is all about commerce, but now you have an expense here that's part of a larger expense that involves 12 agencies, and they don't know how to, so they have to learn new things. And if that's hard for them to learn, then they're going to resist it. If we can make it easy for them to learn, then they're going to be quicker to pick it up.
As you were talking, maybe one example I think of a great success is recreation.gov, where you go in and reserve a campsite, a cabin, and it's across the board. It seems like those types of projects are easy to kind of get your arms around and visualize what you're supposed to accomplish, but then others are harder.
Well, even on that one, I remember one of the very first meetings I was in, literally in the first month or two that I was over at OMB. I think even before I was confirmed, I was not acting in an official capacity, of course, just as a counselor. But there was the Interior Department and the Ag Department and the Army Corps, and they were talking about just that site, and nobody wanted to move. And they said, and it was all the things you can imagine, all the feelings of territoriality and loss of control, and their reservation system worked just fine for this, but why would they want to fold their reservation system into this sort of pathetic little thing this other agency had? And we had to convince them, no, here's the standard of success. Have faith that we can deliver these levels of service with a combined site, and let's agree on how we're going to do this. We're not going to do it in one fell swoop. We're going to ease our way into it so there's confidence all along the way that we're doing what we say we're going to do, we being all of us combined, and that's what's happened.
There's also some lessons learned from the commercial sector. You've probably all seen on some of these popular, when you want to buy books or something, if you really like this book, well, you'd also like these books. Well, if you really need this government service, why not these services? So you begin to develop some cross-channeling, if you will. where the government is touching their customer, the citizen, but also in doing so providing and opening up opportunities and avenues for them to access other services that they are aware of, or better yet, services they weren't aware of. So it's becoming...
So do you do that yourselves? At Booz, you must bring in some, you obviously have a lot of commercial clients as well as serving the public sector, so you're doing some of that, bringing best practices from other government agencies or from the commercial sector to help folks understand how they can get there?
We're trying to, and I think we've had a good run at it, as have a number of other firms in this space. When you look at the portals, for example, GovBenefits and others that we and others have worked on, that's what they were about. Consolidation first and foremost to gain the efficiency, but then to flip that once you have the efficiency and really drive forward on performance.
Now, we've talked about, I think, generally here as e-government being a lot of those things you see as a citizen or a business on the web as you interact with government. But I know the definition is broader than that. What else is in the definition, and what are some of those things that are less visible that are still important successes that we've seen in e-government?
Well, they're all the what I'd call internal to government kinds of initiatives where we are trying to manage our finances more intelligently by, rather than have 24 of the major agencies having their separate financial management systems, why do we have to reinvent the wheel 24 times? Or HR systems, why do we have 24 different HR systems? Isn't HR management kind of HR management? And so we've looked at things like IT infrastructure and HR and financial management, geospatial, budget formulation and execution, a number of different things. There are 9 so-called lines of business where there are functional activities common to all the agencies, and the idea is to let's try to figure out where there are effectiveness opportunities to do this thing, so that when we are trying to add in some new functionality, we're not trying to solve the functionality puzzle 24 times, we're trying to solve the functionality puzzle 4 or 5 times. But we can have greater concentration, we can allow that on the support kind of activities, the best way to provide it, and we can allow the management of the agencies, the CIOs, focusing on how better to serve the citizen, how better to serve their customer.
Well, we have the OMB here. We have the kind of partners in the private sector who are helping to drive e-government, working with those in government. And then we have the journalist out here who's commenting on all of that. So if we can, I would like each of you to kind of give a message to the other two. So, Clay, what would you suggest or like to see from the contract community, or about the coverage of what you're trying to do? You get to go to government and to journalism, and you get to write about both of them all the time, so you get to comment on both. But why don't we give that a shot, and we'll start with the guy in the middle.
All right. I think on the government side, to Clay, and I think keep the pedal down. I think greater clarity and certainty around the outcomes that the government is trying to achieve. One of the biggest problems for us in the consulting contractor community was the ambiguity. Very high risk of not knowing what we're supposed to be delivering and what success looks like. That's where some of the larger programs that we alluded to earlier kind of went by the wayside. It wasn't clear what the goal was, what the objective was, when you got there, where was it. So I think keeping the pedal down, keeping agencies accountable, looking for more lines of business where they make sense, continuing on with the 25 eGov or Quicksilver initiatives and looking for the next wave. I think maybe in a year or two, let's drop the E in front of it and just think about it as government, and just doing government, because like you drop off the Microsoft Word from your resume, we can kind of take that E and put it away. That's how we expect our government to be run. To the media, write fairly, write accurately, help us.
You get to make a rejoinder.
Yeah, help us, by understanding better what the citizen is looking for through it's a wonderful channel, and also communicating to the citizen. So using the media to basically better understand on the demand side, and then also to be able to communicate on the supply side what's being done, and hold us accountable. The good news about the media.
I heard him say it.
Yeah. The long memory.
Comes around.
Remember what has been stated, and then help us, remind us, and then let us know also when we've done good. And on the government side, I think I'll just throw one other in between the two. Helping the government to celebrate success. In the commercial world, we focus a lot on celebrating success, And having the media celebrate the success of what OMB and the agencies are trying to do, I think would go a long way for the citizenry and certainly for Congress to better understand what's going on. So for every one of the sexy, large front page pieces you have on something that